I woke up at 6. I did not need to wake up at 6, but my body did not know that. For 30 years, I woke up at 6. I washed my face. I made tea. I checked the time. I hurried out of the door. Today, I woke up at 6. I washed my face. I made tea. But I did not hurry. The house was very quiet. My husband still slept. The street was not busy yet. I stood by the window. I watched the sky turn light blue. I told myself, "You are free now." The word free sounded nice, but it felt strange. Yesterday was my last day at work. My co-workers gave me flowers. They hugged me. They said, "Enjoy your life." They smiled. I smiled too. But when I came home, I put the flowers on the table. I sat down. I did not know what to do next. For many years, people needed me. They asked me questions. They waited for my answers. They called my name in the hallway. Now, no one called my name. I held my cup of tea. The tea was warm. My hands felt cold. My phone rang. It was my daughter. "Mom, how do you feel?" she asked. "I feel fine," I said. "You can travel now," she said. "You can rest. You worked so hard." I looked around the living room. The sofa was clean. The floor was clean. Everything was in the right place. "I will think about it," I said. After the call, I sat there for a long time. At 9 o'clock, I still sat there. I tried to read a book. I read the same page 3 times. I did not understand it. I turned on the TV. People laughed on the screen. I did not laugh. I walked into the kitchen. I opened the fridge. I closed it. I felt small. Before, my days were full. Now my day was empty. The clock ticked loudly on the wall. Every sound felt bigger. At noon, I decided to go outside. I put on my coat. I tied my hair. I locked the door. The air was cool. The sun was soft. People walked fast on the street. They held bags. They checked their phones. They looked busy. I used to walk like that. I used to have a place to go. I walked slowly. At the end of the street, I saw the City Museum. I passed this building many times before. I always said, "One day I will visit." But I never did. Today I stopped in front of it. The doors were tall. The walls were white. A small board stood near the entrance. I looked at the board. It said, "We are looking for volunteers." I read it again. "We are looking for volunteers." The words were simple, but they touched something inside me. Looking for. Someone was looking for help. Someone needed people. I stood there for a long time. A woman walked out of the museum. She carried some papers. She smiled at me. "Would you like to come in?" she asked. I felt my heart beat fast. I am just looking," I said. "That is how it starts," she said gently. I looked at the open door. I saw a painting on the wall inside. Soft light fell on it. The place was quiet, but it did not feel empty. I took one step forward, then another. "I just retired," I said. "I have a lot of time." The woman nodded. "Time is a gift," she said. "You can share it here." Share it. I did not answer, but I did not leave. For the first time that morning, I did not feel small. I felt unsure. I felt nervous. But I also felt a little curious. Maybe tomorrow would not be the same as today. Maybe this door was not the end. Maybe it was the beginning of something I did not see yet. I stood at the entrance. The door stayed open. I did not sleep well that night. I closed my eyes, but my mind stayed awake. I kept thinking about the museum. I kept seeing the open door. In the morning, I woke up at 6 again. This time I did not feel empty. I felt nervous. I stood in front of my closet. I touched my blue sweater. I touched my grey coat. "Do I look too old?" I asked the mirror. The mirror did not answer. I chose the blue sweater. It made my face look softer. At least I thought so. When I arrived at the museum, the doors were already open. The same woman from yesterday stood at the front desk. "Good morning," she said. "You came back." "Yes," I said. "I want to try." She held out her hand. "My name is Anna." "My name is May," I said. My voice sounded small. Anna gave me a name tag. It felt light in my hand, but it felt heavy on my chest. She walked me into a large room. Paintings hung on white walls. The floor was clean and shiny. The air smelled like wood and paper. "You can start here," Anna said. "Just talk to visitors. Share what you see." "What I see?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Art is not only facts, it is feeling." I nodded, but my hands felt cold again. At 10 o'clock, the first visitors came in. A young couple walked slowly. They looked at a large painting of a red sky over the sea. I stood near the painting. I opened my mouth. Then I closed it. What should I say? Before I could decide, a little boy ran toward the painting. He stopped in front of it. "Why is the sky red?" he asked loudly. His mother smiled at me. She waited for my answer. My heart beat fast. My face felt warm. I knew the artist's name. I read it on the wall, but I forgot everything else. The boy looked at me again. "Is the sky angry?" he asked. I swallowed. "I think—" "The artist felt strong feelings," I said slowly. "Maybe he felt sad. Maybe he felt fire in his heart." The boy looked back at the painting. He moved closer. "My dad gets a red face when he is angry," he said. "Maybe the sky is like that." His mother laughed softly. "That makes sense," she said. I felt my shoulders relax a little. "Yes," I said. "Sometimes colors show feelings." The boy nodded. "I like it," he said. "It feels loud." Loud, that was a good word. "Yes," I said. "It feels loud to me too." They stayed for a few more minutes. Then they thanked me and walked away. I stood there alone again, but this time I was not frozen. I looked at the painting carefully. The red was deep and wide. The sea was dark blue. The two colors met in the middle. "It feels loud," I whispered to myself. Around noon, more people came. Some listened, some did not. Some just walked past me. One young man looked at me and said, "Are you a guide?" "I am a volunteer," I answered. He nodded and walked away. The word volunteer stayed in my mind. It sounded small, but it also sounded honest. In the afternoon, I made one mistake. I said the wrong year for a painting. A woman corrected me. "It was painted in 1890, not 1909, she said. "Oh," I replied quickly. "Thank you." My face turned red again. I felt like a student in school. For a moment I wanted to go home. I wanted to take off the name tag. I wanted to sit in my quiet living room. But then I remembered the little boy. "It feels loud," he had said. No one had asked me how a painting felt in many years. No one had waited for my words. At 4 o'clock, Anna came to me. "How was your first day?" she asked. I thought for a moment. "I was afraid," I said. "I made mistakes." Anna smiled. "Everyone makes mistakes," she said. "But did you talk to people?" "Yes," I said. "Did they listen?" I remembered the boy's eyes. I remembered his voice. "Yes," I said again, this time stronger. "They listened." Anna nodded. "Then you did well." When I walked home, the street looked different. The sky was soft orange. People still walked fast. Cars still moved. But inside me, something moved too. I was still nervous. I was still unsure. But I was not invisible. Today, someone asked me a question, and I answered. That felt like the beginning of something small, and maybe something important. On my third week at the museum, I began to feel more steady. I still woke up at 6, but now I had a place to go. I prepared small notes at home. I read about the artists. I practiced simple sentences in front of the mirror. This painting shows hope. This color feels quiet. The artist lost his mother that year. My voice sounded clearer each day. One Tuesday afternoon, I noticed a little girl standing near the door. She did not run like other children. She did not speak. She held her mother's hand. Her eyes moved slowly across the room. I walked toward them. "Hello," I said softly. The mother smiled. "This is Lena," she said. "She likes to look. She does not like to talk." The girl looked at me. Her eyes were dark and careful. "That is okay," I said. "Looking is important." They stopped in front of a small painting of a woman sitting by a window. The woman in the painting held a letter in her hand. "What do you see?" I asked gently. Lena did not answer. She stepped closer to the painting. Her mother spoke for her. "She thinks a lot," she said. I nodded. "I think the woman is waiting," I said. "She holds a letter. Maybe she misses someone." Lena's fingers moved slightly. She looked at the letter in the painting. After a moment, she whispered, "She is lonely." Her voice was very soft, but I heard it. "Yes," I said, "she might be lonely." Lena looked at me again. "She wants someone to come back," she added. I felt something warm in my chest. "Yes," I said slowly, "maybe she does." Her mother looked surprised. "She usually does not speak to strangers," she said quietly. I smiled. "Art helps us speak," I replied. Lena did not hold her mother's hand now. She stood beside me. We moved to another painting. This one showed a field of yellow flowers under a bright sky. "What about this one?" I asked. Lena tilted her head. "It feels happy," she said, "but also tired." "Tired?" I asked. "The flowers worked hard to grow," she said. I almost laughed, but I stopped myself. Her answer was not funny. It was beautiful. "Yes," I said, "growth is hard." She looked proud. She looked taller. From that day on, Lena came every Tuesday. She walked in slowly. She looked for me. When she saw me, she gave a small wave. One afternoon, she brought a notebook. She showed it to me. Inside were drawings of paintings. But she changed them. She added birds. She added suns. She added small smiling faces in the corners. "I give them better endings," she said. "Why?" I asked. "Because I can," she answered. I looked at her drawing of the lonely woman by the window. In Lena's picture, a man stood at the door. He held flowers. The window was open. "You changed her story," I said. Lena nodded. "She does not wait now," she said. "She opens the door." Her words stayed with me all day. That evening, I thought about my own life. For weeks, I believed I was waiting for something new, waiting for someone to need me. But maybe I could open a door too. The next Tuesday, Lena ran to me. "I told my class about you," she said. "I said you make paintings talk." I blinked. "Do they talk?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "You help them." Her mother stood behind her. "She talks about the museum all week," she said. "She feels brave here." Brave. I never thought of myself as brave. But Lena looked at me as if I was. Before she left that day, she handed me a small piece of paper. It was a drawing of me. I stood next to a painting. Lines came out of my mouth like soft waves. Above my head she wrote, in careful letters, "She tells the story." My eyes filled with tears. I did not hide them. "Thank you," I said. Lena smiled. "You are not old," she said suddenly. "You are like a bridge." "A bridge?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "You stand in the middle. You help us cross." After she left, I stood alone in the quiet room. The paintings hung silently on the walls, but they did not feel silent anymore. And neither did I. Not every day was warm. Not every visitor listened with soft eyes. One Saturday afternoon, the museum was full. The air felt heavy. Voices echoed in the hall. I stood near a large painting of a war scene. Dark clouds filled the sky. Soldiers ran across the field. Smoke covered the ground. A group of young adults stopped in front of me. One man crossed his arms. He looked serious. "Are you the guide?" he asked. "I am a volunteer," I said. He nodded once. "Then please tell us the historical background." His tone was sharp. I felt it like a small cut. I began slowly. "The painting shows a battle. The artist lost his brother in that war." The man interrupted me. "Yes, but which year? Which battle? What political reason?" His friends looked at me. They waited. My mouth went dry. "It was in the late 1800s, I said. "The artist wanted to show pain." The man shook his head. "That is not precise," he said. "You should follow the official script." Official script. The words hit me hard. "I am sorry," I said quietly. He turned to his friends. They began to read from their phones. They did not look at me again. I stood there next to the painting, but I felt far away. For the rest of the afternoon, I spoke less. I smiled less. I checked the small card on the wall again and again. When I went home, I did not turn on the lights right away. I sat in the dark living room. Maybe he was right, I thought. Maybe I was not professional. Maybe I was too emotional. Maybe I was just an old woman telling simple stories. I took off my name tag. I held it in my hand. The metal felt cold. "I can stop," I said to myself. "No one pays me. No one needs me." The house was quiet again. Too quiet. That night I placed the name tag on the table. I did not prepare notes. I did not read about artists. The next morning was Tuesday. At 6 I woke up. I looked at the table. The name tag lay there, small, silent. I almost stayed in bed. But then I remembered a small voice. "She opens the door." I sat up. I went to the museum. When I entered, Lena was already there. She stood near the front desk. She looked worried. When she saw me, her face changed. She ran toward me. "I thought you were not coming," she said. "Why?" I asked. "You look sad," she replied. I tried to smile. "I am fine." She did not believe me. We walked to the painting of the woman by the window. Lena looked up at me. "Tell me her story today," she said. I hesitated. "Maybe you should read the card," I answered. "It has the correct information." Lena frowned. "I do not want the card," she said. "I want your story." My throat tightened. "Why?" I asked softly. "Because you make her real," she said. "When you talk, I can see her heart." I felt tears again, but this time they came fast. "I made a mistake on Saturday," I said. "A man said I am not professional." Lena thought for a moment. "My teacher says facts are important," she said, "but feelings are important too." She opened her notebook. She showed me a new drawing. In the picture, I stood in front of many children. Behind me were paintings with bright colors. Above my head, she wrote, "She gives them voices." "You are not a script," Lena said firmly. "You are you." Her words were simple, but they were strong. I looked around the room. The paintings waited on the walls. Visitors walked in slowly. I took a deep breath. Maybe I could learn more facts. Maybe I could read more history. But I did not need to erase myself. I put on my name tag. The metal felt warmer now. That day I spoke again. My voice was soft, but it was steady, and I did not leave. After that Tuesday, something changed in me. I still made mistakes sometimes. I still forgot small dates. But I no longer felt ashamed. Instead, I studied more. I read books in the evening. I wrote short notes in simple words. I asked Anna questions. "Can I learn more about this artist?" I said one day. Anna smiled. "Of course," she replied. "You care. That is important." I cared. Yes, that was true. Weeks passed. Spring slowly turned warm. More visitors came to the museum. One afternoon, a middle-aged woman stood near me. She looked tired. She held her bag tightly. "Is this painting about loss?" she asked. It was the painting of the red sky over the sea. The same one the little boy had called Loud. "Yes," I said gently. "The artist lost someone he loved." The woman nodded. "My husband passed away last year," she said. "I do not know how to carry this feeling." Her voice broke. I did not give her history facts. I did not talk about art style. I said, "Sometimes colors carry feelings for us. We do not need to carry them alone." She stood beside me in silence. We looked at the red sky together. After a few minutes, she took a deep breath. "Thank you," she whispered. When she left, she looked lighter. That evening, I understood something clearly. I was not here to be perfect. I was here to connect. One Saturday, Anna made an announcement. "We will start a small storytelling tour," she said. "We want visitors to hear personal voices." She looked at me. "May, would you like to lead the first one?" My heart jumped. "Me?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "You already do." On the day of the tour, 10 people stood in front of me. Young, old, quiet, curious. My hands trembled a little, but I did not hide them. "Welcome," I said. "My name is May. I am a volunteer." I paused. "I am also someone who once felt lost." They listened. We stopped at the lonely woman by the window. I told them about waiting. I told them about opening doors. We stopped at the yellow field. I spoke about growth and tired flowers. We stopped at the red sky. I spoke about loud feelings and silent pain. No one checked their phones. No one interrupted me. At the end, a young man raised his hand. "Do you work here full-time?" he asked. I smiled. "I belong here," I said. And for the first time, I truly believed it. That night, I walked home under a soft pink sky. The air smelled sweet. The city lights blinked slowly. I was still retired. I was still 62. But I was not finished. Retirement did not close my story. It gave me a blank page. I used to think my best years were behind me. I used to think my voice was fading. I was wrong. My voice was waiting. Now, every morning at 6, I wake up. Not because I must, but because I want to. I make tea. I stand by the window. The sky turns light blue. The house is still quiet. But I am not afraid of quiet anymore. Somewhere in the city, paintings hang on white walls. Children walk through tall doors. Someone stands in front of a canvas and feels something they cannot name. And I will be there. Not as a script, not as a perfect guide, but as a bridge. I thought my life was closing, but it was opening. And I walked through.